Hello and welcome everybody to Loving the Moon. I'm Peter Lancett and with me is Julie Grint. Say hello, Julie.
Hello.
There you go. So today we're going to be talking about the phase of the moon where the moon is getting bigger, the waxing moon. And there are actually a couple of phases within that, really, the crescent moon and the gibbous moon. We'll talk about that as well, what that means. Most people probably do know, I would have thought, but a lot of people don't, so we'll mention what that means. So last week we did the full moon. That was interesting, was it not? The chaotic full moon. And as we mentioned, the full moon, literally, you can see it mentioned as a digital speck of time. You know, it's full now, now it's not, because it's moving all the time. But we were showing how the flow works. Well, this is the flow that comes from the new moon all the way up to the full moon. So the full moon hasn't happened yet. We're approaching it with the waxing moon. What sort of energy does the waxing moon give us, Julie?
This waxing moon is really an energy of growth. And it's really symbolic. You know, the moon is this reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
And because we've come from that new moon, that dark moon phase, and we're moving towards the full moon, we're going from dark to light. So it's giving us this impression that the moon is growing, it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
And this is how it's reflecting back at us. You know, it's our time to start to grow, to plant seeds, to expand. And just, you know, personal growth, all sorts of areas of our life.
And this is the important thing as well, isn't it? Visibly, we see it growing. I mean, we see it getting bigger, although, let's be honest, it's not, is it? It's the amount of sun that will be reflected to us that seems to be getting bigger and more.
Yeah.
So this isn't just the moon's position. It's also the amount of reflected light that we get from the sun that can have an effect on us, however great or however small. But the two of them are working together all the time. Are they not? We wouldn't see the moon if the sun wasn't reflecting light from it. You know, that's the thing.
Exactly that. And it's really important. That's such a key point that you made there, Peter, that, you know, they're working together all of the time. And that's so important that we look at all of those aspects of ourselves and keep those parts working together.
I mean, for me, all of nature's working together. Every last aspect of it. There's no separation between anything. Plants, animals, weather, whatever, you know. Everything that exists is linked.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the idea that there is only one energy. Even getting to the quantum mechanics now and the quantum physics and the quantum mathematical areas of cosmology, they're starting to come to the idea it's all one energy field in different frequencies and different patterns that look to us in this third dimension as though there's separation, but there actually isn't.
I love that.
So we do all work together, but we live in a third dimensional state where we do see things as being separate, and to try to live where we think that everything is joined together, it would make life difficult in this third dimension because you'd be on your own when you were doing it, and the rest of the world would be looking at you as though you're insane. And I know, yes, we can laugh at that, but that's actually true. They probably would. So basically what we are doing is learning to live and have this three-dimensional experience, which includes a huge rock in the sky that's close to us called the moon. And, you know, we are going to do an episode. We definitely will do an episode where we talk about how could that possibly be there. We'll go back to Erwin Shapiro again and one or two other scientists. You know, he says, you know, the only way we can really work out what the moon is by saying it doesn't exist. Or not exist. We'll explain why he said that. I mean, he wasn't saying it doesn't exist, but he was saying, like, it shouldn't, it couldn't. How is it even there? Is basically what he was saying. But we'll do an episode on that. But the thing is, it is there, and it does connect with us. It connects with the sun. The sun is the biggest influence on nature on our planet.
Mm.
It's amazing that we've got this huge moon. I mean, our moon, lots of planets have got moons, but none of them have got a moon that is this size in comparison, in ratio to the planet that it circles than our moon. Our moon is really close, about 250,000 miles, and it's really huge, in comparison to the Earth. So it is quite an incredible thing that we have that does have this influence, this electromagnetic influence, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But it does have others. And when it's getting bigger, the effects that it have on us, as you mentioned, Julie, is this growth and this new energy. If we look at this, what are the areas that you would say that would really affect us on a day-to-day basis during this phase? There are quite a few, so just throw one or two at us.
So during this phase, growth. So starting new projects, thinking about new things that you want to start. And this is the time to start putting your energy towards making those thoughts, those ideas, those creations, bringing them into physical form. So it's really about the physical aspect of the body, as well as the things that we're going to bring into materialization.
We've talked about that before, haven't we? The fact that this will affect us physically.
Yeah.
But I love this idea of projects, things that we want to do. And by the way, when I say project, I'm not talking about, creating a new business that's going to employ 100,000 people. It could be where you've just decided, there's this book I need to read. It's about time I picked that up and had a go. You'll have that motivation as well as everything else. This is a motivator, and we see it as, I don't know, it's like pressing a turbocharge button in your car. Whoa. Now, does it mean that you couldn't start reading a book or, starting a project during a different phase of the moon, like a waning phase?
Of course not. It's just useful to use nature's rhythms and cycles to make the most of life.
That's it.
Yeah, oftentimes when we do things that are not in sync with nature, we can meet a bit of resistance. So it's there for a reason, but it's not there to live by. It's not dogma. It's not a hard rule that we have to follow. Like we were saying before about the new moon and the full moon, it doesn't just start and then stop. There's a process. It's a continuous cycle. But following these phases gives us the opportunity to be more fluid. To not be so rigid with our actions, and to give ourselves more time, more support, more structure to our lives.
And what we say pretty much every week, every time we speak, is this idea of, if you imagine a metaphor for the way that the moon and the way that nature works, it's like a wave. Look at the ocean. The ocean's all waves. Sometimes it looks as though it's flat, but it is still moving. But you'll mostly see waves, and where the water goes to the top and then looks as though it's drifting down to the bottom, it's moving, it's a wave. Watch one coming into the shore. You'll see it going up and down, and then it'll just flow into the shore. So this is a bit like all of nature's rhythms for us, and it's a case of riding it at the right time to get the most out of it. It doesn't mean that you couldn't swim to the shore when the tide's going out. By the way, don't try that. But well, certainly not on a surfing beach where there's a rip tide, and then before you know it, you're going to be carried out to sea, and drown, which often happens. And I shouldn't really say this, should I? It's got nothing to do with what we do, but it is a metaphor for what could happen. Now, something that's occurred to me on what we've just been talking about, and I mentioned, you could start reading a book. That could be the project, the thing that you wanted to do. You needed the motivation to pick that book up, and the Waxing Moon would be a great time. And because of the motivations there, you'll get into that book, and you won't want to put it down after that. That would be pretty good, right? But here's the other thing. You could actually use the waning moon to do this, depending on how you set an intention for that motivation. But you would have to set it in advance, or on the day, simply because what you could say is, I want to release everything that stopped me from picking up this book for all these months. What the heck has been standing in my way? I've wanted to read that book for years, and I've got it there. It's on my bookshelf, and I've never bothered reading it, and I want to. So what's standing in my way? I would like the waning moon to release whatever's in the way, and you could still then pick up the book. And you've used the waning moon to do it.
I love that.
I know you. I could see the smile on your face.
But it's just so beautiful, isn't it? There's no right or wrong with this process.
No.
If you can't get something going, you can use all aspects of the moon to support you.
Well, I wouldn't really want to use the full moon to support.
But even so, it's setting the wheels in motion for moving things out of the way, isn't it? So as you say, following the full moon, it's in that waning moon phase. Release everything that's getting in your way, enter into the new moon, create another vision for what you want to create, expand out. And if it's still to read that book, then you're applying a different energy. You've got more growth coming into it. And it's a wonderful, like you say, we're going back to that wave, aren't we?
We certainly are. And oh, sorry.
After you.
No. It's definitely after you.
But metaphors, I love that, and that there are so many metaphors, and something that I use is seasons. So each moon phase for me reflects a different season, and this waxing moon phase is very much reflective of the season of spring. And when I look at that, and I look at nature, nature knows exactly what to do in spring. Nature knows what's happened in winter, and it's got prepared for this moment. Winter would be our new moon, the dark moon. That's our time to prepare. And this waxing moon is then really nurturing those seeds that we've planted. So this is that whole growth phase. We see the plants, the new life emerging from the ground. And that's what takes us through to the summer, the full moon, and then everything starts to release during the autumn, the waning moon, and then we're back to winter again.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the autumn.
We will indeed. Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
I know. We will do it. But it's an interesting cycle. Things that we should be careful about is the way that your body will absorb nutrients and food aspects and what it will do with them.
Yeah, there is no doubt that our physical bodies, because we are energy, are affected by these moon cycles.
Yeah, that's true. So what would you say happens when you eat during the waxing moon phase?
Well, because it's all about energy, we're absorbing, we're utilizing more energy, therefore we're needing more energy. So the food that we take in, we're absorbing that very easily because we want to be able to use that. However, what's the downside of that, Pete?
We hang on to it.
Yeah.
We don't release it. And that means that if we ate exactly to the letter, exactly the same food and the same quantities during a waxing moon phase that we had in the previous waning moon phase, we'd be heavier at the end of that phase because we will not have released. The thing with waxing moon is it says, hang on, this is the time where we can really move into things. So we better hang on to this food. What you've put in your mouth and what you've swallowed, we'll hang on to that because you're going to need it.
Yeah. So we really need to be mindful about what's going in and noticing the differences between the waxing moon phase and the waning moon phase and what types of foods are going to serve us better.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you go.
I want to hear what your types of foods are.
I was just going to say, I tend not to eat carbohydrate foods, like pasta and things like this, potatoes, because, I mean, they are the ones that if I were running a marathon, if I was training for it, yeah, I could do that because, boom, I would be getting rid of it by training every day, running 6-10 miles, whatever it is that I was doing in the training. Yeah, that would not be an issue. And, you do know that long distance athletes, they do tend to eat lots of carbs for this very reason, because your body will hold on and it won't release. If you eat those in the waxing moon phase and you're not doing athletic things, then yes, you're going to feel full for a lot longer than you would normally. I would suggest, and goodness knows I can't prove that this is the right thing or the wrong thing for everybody to do, but I would suggest always that you eat differently during the different phases. Goodness, does everybody want to eat the same thing every day anyway? I don't know.
Some people do.
Some people do. I'm not one of them.
But I will, I have to vouch for it. This is something that I've also been working with over the last few years. And boy, do I notice it if I'm not paying attention to what I'm eating. And it's not that anything I'm eating is bad. Food is not good or bad, but it's appreciating your energy needs in that moment. And you will find, undoubtedly, that you will hold on to more during this phase. So support that. Give your body what it needs. It doesn't want to be weighed down. It's a time of energy movement. So we want to move our physical bodies. We don't want to be weighed down with sluggish foods like your pastas and your potatoes. We want to be eating things that are, really nutritious, lots of salads, lots of fruits, lots of light foods that give us a good supply of energy.
I always think too about this, that if you eat naturally, things will be better. Now, I can't tell everybody what to eat, but I can tell you what I do because of this, because of what we're talking about in the energy of waxing moons and waning moons and so on. But I will only eat things that are in season where I am. I will not eat strawberries in January in England, for example. But the thing for me is that if we try to stay natural with what we eat, then we're in the rhythm of nature, but nature where we are. Nature acts differently in different parts of the world. Why wouldn't it? We wouldn't expect nature in the Amazon basin or the Western Desert of Australia to be exactly like it is in rainy England. But in New Zealand, it is the same. It rains a lot, and the country's green, and it's the weather. The weather is pretty similar to us. It's the summers tend to be a little more consistent, or they certainly have when I lived down there. The 2 phases that I was living down there, but it's very, very much like us. It's a temperate climate, but the whole world isn't the same, is it?
Of course.
And so equatorial Africa, you can go into Central Africa, and it's a completely different thing altogether. But that's very green, but different plants and different food that's growing and so on.
Yeah.
So I try to stay with the food that's relatively local to where I am. I know that we can, nowadays, because of technology and because of the system of transport that we have, Spain isn't that far away, is it? So if you really wanted to give yourself a bit of a treat, if it was grown in Spain, it doesn't matter. But you get what I'm saying. I try to have things that are with me now as best I can. The way that our ancestors used to live. Our ancestors didn't manage to import food from 1,000 miles away. They didn't.
And
it
also
had to be local.
Yeah, of course. And that also is very reflective in our own season here, our own seasonal changes here, isn't it? We don't naturally grow strawberries here in this country in the winter. It's natural for them to grow in the summer. So
I don't know whether or not you've seen those big plastic dome sort of things that people are growing in on farms so that they can actually extend a growing and harvesting season for fruits. So I don't know how long that can go on for, but I'm pretty sure that we're not growing strawberries and harvesting them in the winter here. I should have to check that up. Technology changes all the time, so I don't really know. But we never used to years ago. So I do try to follow that. I don't always do. Like the things that we said on previous recordings of these podcasts that we've done, we're just looking at where the high points are for us to follow the natural rhythm. It doesn't mean that we can't do things that are opposing nature's rhythm, but so long as we're aware of the consequences of it, and then we can just make a little adjustment. So, for example, you go out for dinner and you're having all this stodgy great food and all your friends, and you're having a laugh and everything. How about tomorrow you might want to fast a little bit and take life easier so that you can just process all that you've eaten the night before. It's that way would make life easier. You don't have to do that, but you are then pushing against the wave, and the wave is stronger than you. So you won't feel good for a few days if you don't, manage the consequence of what you've done. Keeping a journal of the moon is, well, even not keeping a journal, just getting an app on your phone that tells you each day what the moon phase is today. And just say, I'm in a waxing moon phase. We're going out tonight, or tomorrow I'll just have a bowl of soup or something. I won't worry about what I'm going to eat for dinner tomorrow night. Just to put myself back on the balance of my own natural rhythm and keeping it in sync, in synchronization with the moon's rhythm.
And what you mentioned there, that word journal. But it's a really useful tool, especially when you're starting to work with moon, because everybody's different, and we need to get to know our own bodies. Yes, we're all influenced by the environment, by the energies, the moon, the sun, but it's important to get a handle on how you feel and what your energy needs are and what's happening in your personal life, so that you can determine how you're going to utilize the moon moving forward. And if you need help, with things like weight loss, then things like this, working with these moon phases and using this as a tool to assist your eating habits, it is really, really useful.
Oh, very. It is too. I mean, two areas of the moon where I would definitely fast. If you're not into fasting, I would, because there are good health reasons for doing it. First of all, if you fast for 24 hours, you're not going to die. I'm here to tell you that you're not. But it allows your body to rebalance, readjust. If you go for further than that, then it does other things, which, by the way, anybody that thinks this is a bit, out there and alternative, it's not. The evidence is massively there about what happens. There's something called autophagy, and other people pronounce it differently, but I'd call it autophagy. And it's this process where your body, after 24 hours of fast, if you're continuing to fast a little bit, it will start taking misfolded proteins in cells that would otherwise go into your bloodstream, end up in the brain as brain plaque. And I wonder what that brings on. Oh, it's called Alzheimer's and dementia. So if you want to avoid that, then fasting every now and again for over 24 hours to allow your body to detoxify in that way is great. When would you do this? Personally, I definitely fast the new moon, that dark moon, new moon phase, and the full moon. Both of them are very, very easy not to have to be in alignment with any motion of the moon's rhythms. So it's pretty easy. Yeah, I think you can do it, though, in either phase. There are reasons why it would work in either phase of the moon, the waxing and the waning moon. But you should think about things like this, and I could recommend a book to everybody who's interested, and I shall just grab it now. this is the one. Feast,
Oh.
Fast, Repeat by Gin Stephens. And Gin Stephens, and she's got loads of podcasts as well, in case you want to just listen to them. But the reason that I mentioned this is because she wrote her book, and she admits this, based on a book written by a Canadian doctor called Jason Fung. Jason Fung, who worked out how to put a stop to type 2 diabetes. And in the years since he wrote that book, he's managed not just to halt the bad symptoms of type 2 diabetes, but in more than 10,000 patients, he's turned it off.
Mm.
He's actually got rid of the type 2 diabetes for over 10,000 people. So she looked at that, and a lot of it was about fasting to allow your body to detoxify and so on. So in the waxing moon, yes, we can get wound up and really ready to go, but there are sometimes good reasons to switch off a little bit, you know.
That's really, really interesting, and a little diversion here, but you were talking about type 2 diabetes. You mentioned Alzheimer's earlier, and, you know, Alzheimer's really is considered to be type 3 diabetes. So it's important to look at our health, and, you know, imagine that, using the moon to help free yourself from this condition.
I agree. And I mean, and this is why taking a notebook and just taking a note each morning of where's the moon today. There are websites that you can go onto. There's an app that you can download onto your phone that will show you exactly where you are in the moon. And it will also, most of the time, if you go online or if you get a moon app, probably tell you what phases the moon's in the astrological sun chart. You know, so you'll be looking at that. You know, where are we today? I mean, do we know? I don't know. I'd have to grab hold of a phone. I mean,
this is a whole other area to explore, isn't it?
Oh, goodness
the whole
gracious,
astrology of the moon as well.
Well, we've been talking about this. I mean, we've spoken of it in the previous. There you go. We're about to process out of Taurus and into Gemini. We're in the transition phase. The moon is. So the moon, this planet, the sun, everything has its position in relation to the star systems that make up these astrological star signs. I don't know, you know, if you're following astrology at all or whatever anybody's doing, but if you are, you'll know that the energies that are influenced by those star signs. I'm a Gemini where the moon's coming into that, and I'm bang in the middle of it. So I'm amazed that you can't see two of me. The other one's hiding behind the chair. I mean,
wouldn't we be lucky if there were two of you?
I doubt it. The world would be a living hell for this planet.
There's something that I love about this waxing moon phase, and the moon in general, is this affinity with women's health in particular.
Oh God, yeah.
Our menstrual cycle, and it's not there as something to kind of govern us,
No.
but it's a you know, incredible tool. There are too many coincidences to ignore it. And, you know, if we're looking at this time as springtime, as a time of growth, if we reflect that to our inner body, I interpret that as inner spring. And for the majority of women out there, and in the past where, you know, women have, you know, in tribes and things, worked with the lunar cycle and their menstruation, the new moon has always represented, from the most part, that menstrual phase, although it can happen at other times because we're not fixed by it. And so therefore, if the new moon is the inner winter, if you like, the menstruation, then this waxing moon phase is our inner springtime, which is our follicular phase. So this this increase in energy that we experience, and I believe this is happening to men as well, on a different level.
It does.
But is to do with the hormones that are also being released in the body.
Of course.
And so we have more estrogen being released. And it's really important that we can support that. So nutrition, the things that we do, our physical body, the movement, it's all really vital that we honour this nature's gift here.
And we should, and women used to in our ancient past, because they were always associating the women's monthly cycles with that phase of the moon. Nobody's saying that it's exact to the second, but we did that little presentation on the moon. Can you remember a while back? And
oh, yes.
We saw all of those cave drawings and things like this from tens of thousands of years ago. The one at Lancett, the horse dots and things like this. I mean, and it all added up to the phases of the moon. And it was mostly about women at that time as well. So it was very, very interesting to see that this isn't new. And I also wonder, now this is just a guess, maybe women's cycles were in phase with the moon at one point. But since we've divorced ourselves from nature, creating this shall we call it a civilization?
Yeah.
But this unnatural world that we live in, with all kinds of energies flowing from elsewhere and different things, that it's all got out of shape. And each woman is now completely individualized until women live in a community together, which when we've seen that happen, there's plenty of evidence that they all go into sync. There's loads of evidence of that. I'm not going to say that it would happen every time, but there's loads of evidence of it actually happening. So that would be very, very interesting to see how that worked and how that aligned with the moon. Because I'll bet your life, if they were also following the moon's phases, not only would they sync with each other, they would all sync with that. I'm just taking a wild guess, but I do think that might happen. Because it does look as though in our ancient past, women were making a connection between their monthly cycle and the moon having one. So I wish we could go back in time and ask them. Be interesting, wouldn't it, to find that out? But what we can see is evidence of artwork and cave drawing. Now, it's interesting that we call this artwork. Some of it looks like it's science for them. This is how they were recording what they were learning and what they were seeing and what they were associating with how they go. So to me, it's very, very interesting that we talk about that. And we'll talk more about that, I dare say, in future podcasts. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so just, we're talking about women's health, but, we know, we say this often, and I want to reiterate it, that this isn't just about women. The moon wasn't put there for us. The moon is for everybody. And it's important that men also recognise that they too can benefit from working with nature's rhythms.
But they don't, do they? They tend not to. Well, we've been shoved into a different path.
Yeah.
With different goals that we're supposed to have.
And it's worked both ways, hasn't it? We've had women that have shoved themselves trying to get onto that path as well. And it doesn't work. No,
it doesn't. We will discuss what we mean by that later on as well, because I think it's very, very interesting that men should actually journal the lunar phases as well. How do I feel today? What do I want to do? A great thing about the waxing moon is things that you have been putting off because of a lack of confidence. This is the time to start it, because that waxing moon energy will fill you with confidence.
Yeah.
So to me, it's got all of that going for it. and it's not just for women. Like I say, it's for men as well. I mean, we will all have these hormonal changes. Does anybody think that men just sit there and that their hormonal levels are exactly the same every frigging day? Well, you can actually measure your emotional self. You're not going to take a blood sample of yourself and look at the hormonal levels, but do it on the emotional level. How do I feel? How do I want to feel? Why don't I feel like I wanted to feel? Oh, the moon is waxing, or the moon is waning, and that's quite the opposite. I still want to get where I want to go, but I can use that energy to take me down a different path than the one I thought I was going to have to take to achieve what I wanted to achieve. Wow, how much confidence will you get when you realize you can do that? And I would always journal everything, even if it's just one line saying, "Feel crap today, moon is waning," or or whatever it is, and if that's all you feel like writing, then write that, and then see what comes into your head, and then write that. No, I mean, honestly, you can get away with just writing one line, but it usually leads to more when you say, okay, I'm just going to say, feeling crap today, moon is this. And then before you know it, you've written another. And also, when you journal, you do not have to write an essay. Just a few lines will do most of the time, unless you want to write the essay, unless it's your choice to write a few pages on how you're feeling and what's actually happened. You probably won't want to do that every day, because you'll want to watch Strictly Come Dancing or something.
It's a good practice to get into, get a journal, get a diary, or just get a notebook, anything, and, jot the date down, jot down where the moon is, and notice how you feel. Notice how your body feels, how your mood is, your energy. Just jot that down.
I think we should do a podcast about moon phase journaling. Be easy to do, and it would be not just a podcast at that point. We'd also be giving a little info, giving some tools to take away. So maybe we should do that. Well, what else should we talk about? So we talk about, the waxing moon, growth, energy. It will hold on to things as well. It's not a releaser. It's a hold on, because we've got things to do, a million things to do. You need all of this. That's not just food, by the way. That's emotional stuff they will hang on to as well. It's a very positive phase.
Yeah.
If we look at it in that way.
Yeah.
But it can also be a negative phase if we allow it to hold on to the wrong things. Don't give it the wrong things to hold on to.
Yes.
Is the way to get around
that.
Yes. So your emotional self, your physical self, don't give them things to hold on to. Otherwise, you'll be dragging a concrete sled behind you.
We'll have a lot more to work with during the full moon.
Yeah, because it'll mean working with the full moon gets difficult.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we end this one?
I think we've pretty much covered everything, really. In terms of emotions, we don't expect everybody to feel a certain way at a certain lunar phase, but generally speaking, if we're growing our confidence, it's a time to really give ourselves kindness and compassion, to work with our physical bodies, and just to notice, where are we holding on to things? Are we feeling any physical tension, stiffness? That can let us know if there's some emotions that we're holding on to, like frustration or irritation, and then work with that to release it.
I'd take notes on that. I'd take notes on what you find when you're looking at that. What am I holding on to? Because you're only going to be a few days, 14 at most, from a waning moon that's going to let you, where you can find it easier to let them go one at a time. Bum, 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 bum. So that's what I would do with that.
Yeah, every stage is a preparation for the next stage, and then the next stage. It's a continuous cycle.
And even, this is like aiming for a goal, isn't it? You reach that goal, and then what? Well, you just sit there on a rock going, well, what? That's it. I might as well die now. No, you don't, do you? You find other things. There are other things to do. If you don't find other things to do, then your life has ended, even if physically you're still alive. You've got to find things to keep moving, motion. Look at the universe. What stands still? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if you are standing still, you really are going against the rhythm of nature. Yeah. So there will always be things that come to us as we approach, finishing that goal that we were aiming at. Something else usually will come to us. Good times to look at that. We'll be talking about, won't we, later on? And I think like the dark moon, new moon phase is a great time for this. But then you've got to let it germinate. We can actually take notes whenever they come to us. Anyway, we'll call that a day, and we'll say thanks to everybody for joining us on this podcast this time. And next time we'll be talking about, what will we be talking about? What is it? It's going to be the dark moon, new moon.
Dark moon.
Yeah, the one we just mentioned. So we'll be looking at that one. But for now, we'd like to say thanks everybody for listening. If you want to get in touch with us, you'll find an email address in the notes below this podcast. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye, everyone, and enjoy your life.